Do you remember when new music used to sound amazing? It was almost as if hardly a few days, a few months, maybe a year used to go by before you found something that just blew your mind. And now, slowly but surely, those days are getting fewer. It is harder and harder to find music that's interesting, that's exciting. It's harder and harder to find something that truly makes you feel alive. And you may think it's because the music industry is corrupt, so on and so forth, new music is generic, pop music, whatever. You may think all of these reasons. But I think that there's a much simpler explanation, and it's got to do with you. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Ministry of Guitar. I'm Utkarsh coming to you from Singapore. Now, my favorite band in the world is probably Pink Floyd. I would say the Beatles, I'd say Opeth, but I'm going to go with Pink Floyd because they are relevant to this story. So I got my first Pink Floyd CD when I was 16 or 17. And I got it because my father told me that he was very fond of one song, which is of course Breaking the Wall. But he gave me the wrong album, Dark Side of the Moon, doesn't matter, whole story there. And he gave it to me. I heard it. The first, and I'll state that Dark Side of the Moon is probably my favorite album of all time. I heard it. When I heard it the first time, I didn't really get it. It didn't really sound great. When I heard it a second time, I maybe remembered a little bit more, sounded slightly better. I heard it again the third time, and then I was like, okay, wow, there's something going on here. And needless to say, I heard it many, many, many more times over the years so that it just became my go-to. Something similar happened to me with The Wall. And something similar also happened to me with, what's the name of that band? Metallica, Black Album. Something very similar happened where initially I heard it, I was like, then I heard it again, then I heard it again, and slowly it became one of my favorite albums. The point is that when it comes to good music, it's a little bit like, what should I say? It's a little bit like sushi. Now, the thing is, when I first had sushi, it was just something that it was just very, very weird. But ultimately, right now, sushi is one of my favorite food. The point is, it's an acquired taste. It's not like a pack of potato chips that you just eat it immediately, it satiates you, and then immediately you love it. It's not fries from McDonald's. It's something that requires a little bit of deeper understanding, a little bit of time, and a little bit of appreciation. Now, what has happened recently is that our attention spans have been destroyed by the internet, then by the smartphone. Also, the way we consume music has gone from you go and buy a CD, you go and buy an album, to basically you get a bunch of songs popping up in your Spotify, and sometimes they come in playlists, sometimes they come here and there. Music has become a lot more of a passive activity where you don't really sit down to listen to something, but it's kind of playing in the background. So the consequence is that you typically, when you're hearing something new, you're only hearing it maybe for a short period of time before you get bored, and you're probably hearing it not as the artist intends inside an album, but maybe it pops up as part of a playlist, right? And what I've realized is that when you don't give something time, it's like you basically just jump from song to song looking for something new, but good songs need the time to penetrate into your soul, really. Another analogy that I would use is of basically what online dating or swipe dating has done to the world of dating, right? Back in the day, where you did not have so many options, you would basically have a date, probably try to stick it out with the person for a while. You may take you a little bit of time, you may still decide to not go ahead with them, but you did not have an abundance of choice. Today, you just swipe left, swipe right, or whatever. I had a Tinder account like, my God, 10 years ago. I don't know if it's evolved, but the whole idea is that there are a million people available at any point in time for you to potentially match with. Right, and you can constantly swipe left, swipe right. If you're a guy, it's probably more difficult to get swiped right. Whichever one it is, it's more difficult. But the point is, because there is so much choice, suddenly people treat other people as disposable. Suddenly, you don't put in the time that you need to put in. Hence, there's an entire crisis right now when it comes to young people and their relationships and loneliness and social life and so on and so forth. Where because you're not giving one person enough time, you're just kind of judging them based on 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, or maybe just a photograph. You're not getting a chance to fully uncover and fully appreciate something. This is perhaps exactly what is happening with music. And it's been happening to me as well. And I've consciously been noticing this, that it had been a very long time since I had consumed an album. And frankly, I was always too bored to consume an album. Opeth release a new album, I'm like, oh, am I really going to sit down and listen to one album for such a long time? Mastodon released a new album many years ago. I was like, should I really just sit down and listen to it? Whoever it might be, doesn't matter if it's my favorite artist. Yes, I'm excited about the album coming out, but I'm rarely actually sitting down and listening to it because I'm so used to the playlist popping up depending on my mood, whatever, and I have a go-to list of things to do, that it's a bit like reading a book. Right? When was the last time you sat down and genuinely read a book without looking at your smartphone after 5 minutes and getting distracted? And because of that, again, when I think of all the great books I've read, they kind of are like all 10, 15 years ago, before I was distracted by the smartphone. I think of all my favorite albums. I heard them all 10, 15 years ago before I was distracted by the smartphone. So the problem is not like there isn't great new music, great new albums coming out. I think there is. There is amazing music coming out. The problem is that we are just not giving it enough time because our attention span has been destroyed. Even if we are the kind of people who appreciate more than just pop music, even our attention span has been destroyed and we are not giving things enough time. And recently I decided to do this because, just speaking of Mastodon, of course, it's been in the news, of course, with the tragedy with Brent Hines. My favorite Mastodon album is surprisingly not the one that you might think. It's Once More Around the Sun. And the simple reason that it's my favorite album is that for some reason, I don't know what had happened, because I like the song Motherlode. I had downloaded the entire album accidentally just before my trip to Japan. And in Japan, sorry, long story here, but interesting story, and this goes back to the point that I was saying. In Japan, basically, I lost my data. I was not able to connect to the internet, and I had to get to the airport, which is not Haneda, but Narita Airport, which is 2.5 hours from Tokyo. And then I ended up taking the bus. Another short story, it's called a limo, airport limo. I thought it would be a limousine. It was really just a bus, but that's a different story. So in any case, on that bus ride, that 2.5 hour bus ride, I had no access to internet. All I had was the one thing that I downloaded on my Spotify, which was Once More Around the Sun. And this was around March 2018 or 19, something around there. So it was cherry blossom season. So I have this distinct memory of 2.5 hours of going from Tokyo to Narita Airport, 2.5 hours through the highways, roads, all the beautiful scenery of Japan, listening to Once More Around the Sun. And I must have heard it a couple of times. And then I heard it again in the airport because I had nothing else to listen to. And Once More Around the Sun is my favorite Mastodon album. And then later I tried to get a little bit into some of their other songs, like the most famously acclaimed Leviathan and Crack the Sky. I wasn't really that into it. I was like, no, I think I like this one, even though those are so acclaimed. And recently with the whole thing with Brent Hines, I was like, you know what, I really need to give this a try again. So I just started listening to Crack the Sky literally 7 days ago. And I started listening to music in a more deliberate way. I'm assuming I just have a CD or an album, so I'm just listening to Crack the Sky. And I love it. I love it. I like it a little bit more than Once More Around the Sun, frankly. And I realized that, hey, it's just that I was not paying attention. I was just so distracted. So perhaps for all of us who complain about the way new music has become and how there's nothing interesting in music anymore, perhaps what we need to do is just spend a little bit more time on something that we know is reasonably critically acclaimed. It is in the realm of the kind of things we like. And who knows, you'll suddenly probably discover a bunch of new songs or a bunch of new albums that you will really, really like. All right, folks, this is all I have for today, and I'll see you next time.